Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and have we got an action-packed show for you this morning on our Manchester United news show. Wow, we've got Ugarte shock positional changes. We've got Amorim interest from Manchester United. Ruben Amorim, the Sporting Lisbon coach, would he be a good fit if Ten Hag was to be removed at some point over the next few months? Also talks about contracts and how that could impact Manchester United. Real Madrid and Barcelona fighting it out for a left-back that Manchester United should still have, maybe. And also shocking dressing room leaks again, but we can't blame the players for this one. And we've also got what I would want to call twat of the week. In fact, it's tweet of the week. Worst tweet of the week. Absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. Get ready for this. I will be giving you it. And yes, no guesses for for where it's come from. It's another journalist around Manchester United whose toxicity. I mean, look. It just needs discussing. It needs discussing. It's terrible. Right, let's get into it. Right, so last night, Friday night, we finished the Friday night show just sitting down in front of the fire, reading a good book, Bridget Jones's Diary. No. I get a message from Matt, our admin, and it's basically, have you seen this? Front page of The Sun. Manchester United's dressing room has been bugged for the Aston Villa game, whereby somebody has got access to the Aston Villa dressing room last week, planted a phone in there that's got some sort of chip in it that when you ring it, you can listen in. So they've listened into absolutely everything from our dressing room last week. I mean, first of all, it was WTF, what's going on? Like, how is this happening? But having thought about it, is it really that deep? We got a good point. And if they can bug the White House and they can bug, governmental departments, bugging Aston Villa's away dressing room probably isn't that difficult. Obviously, it's going to raise questions. All I would say is, I don't know about you, I'd like to listen to the halftime chat. I'd like to know what was happening. I mean, look, if that rocks your boat, it sort of was breaking news last night. But honestly, I'd rather just move on from it. I don't think it's even that big. I really, really don't. But there we go. But what I do want to talk about is a few other bits, and I want to start off talking about this interest in Ruben Amorim. This morning, a couple of news outlets are reporting that he's been added to the shortlist of replacements for Erik Ten Hag if Erik Ten Hag is removed. We already know that Bruno Fernandes has spoken about Amorim numerous times. Obviously, Bruno came from Sporting Lisbon, and I think he's never going to say it, but I think it's very obvious that that Bruno Fernandes is a big admirer of Amorim. I think this fits in with also another story that's coming out that we're very close to signing a new contract with Kobbie Mainoo, which is obviously going to happen, and there's never any danger that won't happen. But I think contracts are a very interesting thing, and you might be able to help me out with this. How many players are not sellable for a number of years at Manchester United? And what I mean by that is, obviously all the new signings, they're going to be here for a few years. They've only just come in this summer. So you've got 2-3 years of Xerxes, Yoro, De Ligt, Mazraoui and Ugarte. They're here for 2 or 3 years just because they've only just come in. Then you've got the second wave, which are people like Mount, Onana and Rasmus, who are going to be here for another couple of 3 years. And then you've got outliers, probably Martinez is going to be here for a couple more years. And then you've got people like Rashford, Shaw, Bruno, who are going to be here for 3 more years because they've got big contracts as well. And then you've got your younger players like Mainoo and Garnacho, who you would hope are going to be here for 2 or 3 more years. So as much as we talk about rotating the team out, we actually have got a lot of players that we know are going to be here for 2 or 3 years. Like, you could literally get to 10 players and go, they will be here for 2 or 3 years. And unfortunately, some of you will go through those players and say, I don't think that they should be. But we know how Manchester United work. Ineos aren't going to pull out a magic wand and start doing things that are impossible. Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Luke Shaw, Martinez, Mason Mount, Onana, Rasmus, De Ligt, the list goes on and on. They are going to be at this football club for the next 2 or 3 years. And this is what annoys me a little bit when people start talking about sack the manager, get rid of these players. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe that is the solution, you know? I don't have the monopoly on what the right decision is for Man United. And as I've said to you many times in the last few days, I've sort of lost any optimism about what would happen if we changed the manager, because I look at external factors to that, even if Ten Hag stays as well. Categorically, factually, we've got 10 players, maybe more, that will be here in 2 or 3 years' time who are, in some people's minds, part of the problem, i.e. not good enough, not going to be good enough, not consistent enough, too important, will always get picked enough. So that fundamentally is a massive problem for Manchester United, regardless of what optimism you hold for the future. And how do you solve that? How do you solve that? Because I see people saying, oh, I've had enough of Luke Shaw, let's sell him. 2 or 3 years left on his contract. Rashford's too inconsistent, bench him. 3 or 4 years left on his contract. Oh, Bruno's the problem. 3 or 4 years left on his contract. So we've got so many players that are just not going to be sellable. And people talk about in the summer, well, Eriksen will go, Maguire will go, Evans will go, Lindelof, only because they're out of contract. I mean, let's get it real. Rafael Varane would still be a Man United player if he had 2 years left on his deal. We weren't selling him. No one was going to buy him. So I do think that there is a scary but obvious conversation that people don't want to have with themselves about, it's not as simple as get that manager in and then he'll get rid of those. That is not going to happen. But my point is, when we talk about potential replacements for Erik Ten Hag, if that was to happen, I have already said I would be looking at the summer. I believe that the Tuchel hype is just based on desperation to replace a manager people have given up on, and basically I'd rather eat that sandwich than this sandwich. Still a sandwich. I am looking at something better than a sandwich, and I'm looking at something that is a satisfying meal that other people are going to be jealous of, and that is where I think names like Amorim come in, because he's not going to be gettable now. He would be a summer target. And I would welcome him to that list, because where we are at the moment, I don't believe sacking the manager right now is the right decision. But I certainly think a projected line in the sand of the summer is a realistic time to start talking about managers, because Ten Hag will have had 3 years by then. Now, I'm not saying he's going to last till May, but as somebody that wouldn't do it at the moment, I'm more than willing to have the conversation of, well, if we don't have a good season, he's had 3 years, I probably would replace him. And when we're talking about replacements, I think someone like Amorim would have to be on that list. I think the interesting thing about someone like Amorim is that Bruno Fernandes, look, is going to be at the club for a long time, like it or not. I did the video the other day about the problem of Bruno, but it's a problem that we have to find a solution to, because one way or another, he ain't going anywhere, is he? And I was listening to what Wayne Rooney said with Roy Keane the other day about captains, and you know, going back to when he played, there'd be 6 or 7 people on the pitch who were captains, and way before Rooney played, we had 6 or 7. I mean, I remember growing up and watching the team of the early 90s, and you had, like I said, you had Cantona, Hughes, Schmeichel, Irwin, Bruce, Ince. I mean, Keane was very young, but still obviously was going to be a captain. Pallister. There were so many leaders in that team. And that was something that that was something that Sir Alex Ferguson purposely did. He obviously purposely looked at the characters of players. And I'm not going to go on about this because we did it on the Friday night show, but we've got to stop looking back, because it's a valid, as I said, I love what we did in the past, but I can't really watch it anymore. I can't really go back and watch old Man United videos anymore, because I watch them occasionally, but we live in the now. If I've seen a good film, I don't really want to watch it again. And okay, I mean, I watch Heat a lot. It's like I watched the 99 season a lot because it was amazing, and I've got the DVD and everything like that. But we are the only growth industry around Manchester United is ex-players doing podcasts talking about the Fergie days. And that might be great for people who want to discover it, but for people who lived it, it gets to a point where you sort of go, but it's 2024. And looking back on the good old days, like the 90s were brilliant for me. Music, football, film, TV. The 90s were great. But it's 2024. What can we learn from that and use today? That's the lesson. Stop living in the fucking past, telling us anecdotes about what it used to be like and, oh, why is it not that now? Look at why it's not like that. We were talking about this last night about captains. We need to go and find these people. You can't... It's almost like I listened to what Roy Keane and Rooney were saying, and I completely agree, but what's your solution, lads? It's almost like you think we've recruited badly over the last 10 years. Where are these 6 or 7 captains that you can go and buy and put into a team? It's not like everyone else has got 6 or 7 captains. I mean, to be fair, I think Man City have. I do think Man City have got that. But that's going to take time to do. That comes down to recruitment. And that, to me, is why when you look at someone like an Amorim, if Ten Hag had to go and he could get the best out of Bruno Fernandes, and let's not forget, he also was the coach for Ugarte. Interesting. But what I will also say is, if Amorim is not the buzzword manager that the British media want, we will just have another Ten Hag. And they'll be going, oh, what a surprise, he's using Ugarte and Bruno because they used to play for Sporting. So the same problems will occur. But I haven't got a problem with Amorim being an outlier as somebody that we might look at if we need to change. Because if we need to make a change is a conversation that must be happening at Manchester United. Because Ten Hag is on thin ice. You've got to be looking at options. And I would more than welcome that. But I don't know. I think maybe I'm in a minority. I think some people just want to make a change and they want to make a change now. Whereas I'm like, if we're going to make a change, then for the love of God, let's do it properly. I mean, look. Fair play. I saw Sir Jim Radcliffe on the news this morning. He's got some boat that he's racing. Some British boat in the America's Cup, I think. I think the New Zealand boat's the favourite. I don't think a British boat's won it for 137 years. I mean, there might be something you can learn from that if they do win it. It's a bit like Man United. We haven't won the title for a while, have we? But you've got to start adding the best and you've got to start analysing what they're going to bring, because I personally don't think that manager's done well at that club works for Manchester United. I think you've got to have a few more bits about it. And I think it might be quite interesting with someone like Amorim, who might be able to do something very different. His style of football is very different, but understands a couple of our players straight away might be quite useful. But look, we need more people. Nagelsmann's a name I like, isn't it? But I mean, you're going to have to wait 2 years for Nagelsmann because he ain't going to leave anywhere. He's not going to leave the German team before the World Cup, is he? Rory C says, City are getting sporting director, so they are already putting in the groundwork to get Amorim like they previously did with Pep. Well, Rory makes a great point. I think Amorim probably will end up at Manchester City, but obviously, hopefully, Man City will get found guilty and be binned off to the National League, in which case they'll be getting Barnett's manager. Hi, Mark and all. Morning, says Rob. Morning, mate. And Amorim says, can you analyse how our players fit Amorim's 3-4-3? Well, I won't be doing that at the moment, mate, because I think that's the sort of stuff you do when a manager is about to get replaced or has been replaced, because we have done that in the past. We've looked at different manager styles, but I'm not going to start doing that because I find that just a little bit ridiculous if in 6 months' time he ends up being the Man City manager, and we've done a video on him about how his 3-4-3 would work for Manchester United. So I wouldn't want to be that premature, but I'd certainly welcome him being added to the list. Talking about Ugarte, don't know whether anybody picked up on this last night. Maybe some of you could have watched it last night. Ugarte played for Uruguay last night, and that leads me to something else I want to talk about as well. Argentina and Uruguay. Played for Uruguay last night against Peru, lost 1-0, played in the middle of a back three or a back five or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, I mean, Somil says, Ugarte's been a bad signing. The guy's technically inept and is a walking yellow card. I can't stand this. I can't stand this sort of stuff. I cannot stand this sort of stuff. I mean, you cannot be a Manchester United fan, mate. You just can't be. The principles, you can't be one. And if you are one, why are you one? Because you don't understand what our football club is. And what made you pick Manchester United? Like, surely every Man United fan understands what being a Man United fan is, understands about the Busby Babes, understands about patience, development, supporting your players when they come to this great football club. Patrice Evra and Vidic were shit when we first bought them. Absolute shambles players. Went on to be legends of the club. You're calling Ugarte useless after a couple of games for Man United when he was brought in at the end of the transfer window. Come on. Grow up. Stop. Don't be one of those. I don't understand those United fans at all. Telling people, you know, after barely... Yeah, it's the same with Xerxes as well. It's the same with De Ligt. How's about supporting them? Because I tell you what, these players aren't robots. And you have a responsibility. Well, you don't have a responsibility. You can do what you bloody well like. But you have a role in how confident these players play. I get it if we're talking about Bruno. I get it if we're talking about a player that's been here for years. But these players haven't even been here for months yet. Back them. Anyway, apparently Ugarte last night played in the centre of a back three. Don't know what that was all about. Really don't know. Don't know whether any of you watched it. I know a lot of you were watching them in the summer. But yeah, it's led to a few people online saying, could this be a positional change for Ugarte that works for Manchester United with the defensive problems that we've got at the moment? I hope not. I don't want to see Ugarte playing at centre-back. I'm still having nightmares about Casemiro playing there last season. But I think the positive thing for me is that he's just a very important player for Uruguay. And for me, I still retain the opinion that he will be a very important player for Manchester United. It took a year, but we actually saw with Amrabat at the end of last season, he played in a bloody FA. You know what? This is a great point. Goldbridge's great point. Goldbridge's great point, as I point. Amrabat plays in Turkey now, right? Amrabat was ridiculed. Even I called him out in the Man City game, furious with him. He plays against the Etihad Man City League game. He played in the FA Cup final. He benched Casemiro and we won against the best team in England, and he played well. The thing about Amrabat is we brought him late. He had no pre-season. We put him at left back. We didn't know what to do with him. And we destroyed his confidence to a point where I think at the end he just didn't give a shit and just went out there and had a go. And then we saw the real Amrabat. So there are echoes of Ugarte with Amrabat. And I think Ugarte is a better player than Amrabat, of course. But there are echoes with that. And we shouldn't make the same mistakes. I've mentioned this about Gravenberch at Liverpool. Second season, he's been fantastic. First season was like, ooh, doesn't look that great. We saw it with Fabinho at Liverpool as well. It can take time for people to adjust when they come into this Premier League. And I believe that Ugarte will be a good signing for Manchester United. But it's never going to be a good signing if you are allowing yourself to be infected by naivety and a press that wants to pull us down. I don't see a problem with any of our new signings at the moment. I think it's ridiculously early to start criticising any of them. But do I see Ugarte as a centre-back? No, I don't. What I was going to mention about this that's very interesting is that a week today we play Brentford, 3 o'clock Saturday. Uruguay play early hours of Wednesday morning, and so do Argentina. So we're going to be in the same fucking position again, which pisses me off, where Ugarte and Martinez, I think, are the only two we've got. They're going to be like... They ain't going to be training Thursday. They're going to be training Friday ahead of a Saturday lunchtime, a Saturday afternoon game. So I'd be very surprised to see either of those two players starting against Brentford next week. I mean, I think you can already predict it'll be Johnny Evans and De Ligt at centre-back, and it will be Eriksen and Casemiro in the midfield. So, yeah. Robert McCormack says, Neville keeps saying we've got to go to a back five. With all due respect to Gary Neville, Valencia, his opinion's the same as your opinion, Robert. It's just a fan giving an opinion. His coaching acumen is the same as mine. It's the same as yours. It's not... I wouldn't trust Gary Neville saying we need to go to a back five. If Pep Guardiola came in and spent a week at Man United and said you need to go to a back five, I'd probably listen to it. But it's just this sort of opinion it's great for conversation, but I don't see why we need to go to a back five. We haven't got any fullbacks at the moment, and when you play a back five, your wing backs become absolutely essential. We haven't even got fullbacks. End of conversation. So, yeah, we'll use a winger there, but a back five is not a ticket to a back three. your wing backs have to be able to defend. I mean, if we put Rashford as the left wing back and Garnacho or Amad as the right wing back, we'll get absolutely pumped down the wings. Like, they've got to be good defensive. They basically have responsibility for the whole of that side of the pitch. So, no, it's not. For me, it's not going to work. Tuchel's our best option, not Amorim. We need him, says Danny. Boring. Do you know when Yoro is back? Can't wait for him, says Cam. I would say mid to late November, to be honest with you, on that one. 4 a.m. here, drinking for my 24th birthday yesterday and loving the content. Thank you, United Stand, for everything you do on a daily basis. Thank you, Ravel, and cheers to you. Hope you're having a great day. I want to just talking about left back. Very interesting story this morning coming in from Spain that already Real Madrid and Barcelona are looking at Alvaro Fernandez. Yes, Alvaro Fernandez, the player that Manchester United had. The player that I tipped last summer could break through into the first team, that we instantly loaned out, then we sold. Now Real Madrid and Barcelona are looking at Alvaro Fernandez at Benfica. Now, I don't know how well I've kept no I've kept no track on what is happening with regards to Alvaro at the moment, but their last game, obviously they beat Atletico Madrid in the Champions League 4-0. And I don't think he even played in that game, did he? I'm just having a look. No, he didn't. He was on the bench. So I don't know. Maybe he was injured. I don't know. I don't know what Alvaro Fernando is. I don't know. Is he playing well? Is he starting games? Just having a quick look here. Feyenoord. Should have probably done this before. Unless, I've just had a thought here. Have they got his name down differently? Lineups. Yeah. They've got his name down differently. They put him as Carreras. He did play in that 4-0 game. He is their starting left back. Alvaro Carreras is what they call him for Benfica. Alvaro Fernandez Carreras. There we go. We've solved that one live on air. He did play in that game. He has been playing for them, and he is playing very well. So, yes. Yeah, there we go. Detective skills. Yeah, he's playing very well for Benfica then, obviously, isn't he? Because he's their starting left back, and they smashed Atletico Madrid. Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't get it. I don't get the left-back situation, so it's not going to be breaking news to any of you this morning. I don't get the left-back situation. I don't know what we're doing in that situation, and I don't know why we can't scream poverty. We can't scream excuse. We went into this season without a left-back, and everybody in that football club's got to take responsibility, from Dan Ashworth to Eric Ten Hag to Jason Wilcox to Omar Barada to Sir David Brailsford. Everybody's got to take responsibility for that, because I think what was always very clear with Alvaro Fernandez was that he was a good player. And maybe he's a good European left back and the Premier League wasn't right for him, but bloody hell. It's incredible to me how we've just left ourselves in that situation. And look, if you are a starting left back for Benfica and you're 21 years of age, you're going to get interest from Real Madrid and Barcelona. It's their typical scouting route. And they are going to look at him. Now, whether he ends up playing for Real Madrid or Barcelona or PSG or whatever, he's obviously a decent player, and he's obviously being looked at by a lot of big clubs. And I just don't know what we're doing with that. I don't know what that's all about. The thing is about him as well is that I remember that he's actually quite tall. Very good engine, quite tall. I mean, I don't know. You can't... Look, I heard Di Canio this week saying that Man United should sack their directors for selling Scott McTominay to Napoli. This is where a little bit of calm is very important, because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But what I would say about Alvaro Fernandez is it's galling to see a player starting at left back for Benfica doing really well, being scouted by Real Madrid and Barcelona, when we've got Dalot playing at left back. That's my point. I'm not saying that Alvaro Fernandez was the solution, but he's got to be better than the current situation. And why have we allowed this to happen? I'm not actually specifically focusing in on Alvaro Fernandez. I'm focusing in on the left-back situation, which leaves us imbalanced and weak. How many goals have we conceded down the left-hand side this season? Why did we leave it so exposed? And, you know, you can say, well, it's Ten Hag's fault. You can say it's Ineos's fault. But it doesn't matter whose fault it is, because no manager and no director of football is going to say, we'll be fine without a left-back. No one's going to do it. It's not quite the same as saying we'll be fine without a goalkeeper. I understand that. But it's still a specialist position that provides balance to your left-hand side, not just defensively, but offensively as well. We haven't got a left-footed left-back. Even if people want to say, well, Dalot can do a job, he ain't left-footed. It's crazy to me that we've left that situation wide open, and I don't really get it. Especially, and it is annoying to see a player that we had doing very well at 21 years of age for Benfica, of course. But what I will say is Di Canio's wrong. When I look at Manchester City and I look at Arsenal have let Smith Rowe go to Fulham and he's doing fantastic. I don't see any Fulham fans going, we shouldn't have sold him. And they've got Odegaard injured. Because they're a big football club that understand that you do need to sell players and you do wish them all the best. In your progression to be title winners, you have to let people go. And the aim is not to let people go and then fail. The aim is to let them go to clubs smaller than you and do well, and you to make money. Man City do it all the time. They sell young players like Cole Palmer and other players like Delap to Ipswich who go and do really, really well, and they pocket the money. And that's their business model. We need a mindset change in our fan base because we're obsessed when we sell a player that it's a mistake if they go off and do quite well. It's not a mistake. It's what big clubs do. Is Scott McTominay good enough to start for Manchester United? Our survey said, 90% say no, 10% say yes. Well, the 10%, fine, but the majority of you know that Scott McTominay is not good enough to start for Manchester United. Napoli are willing to give you £25 million for him. Do you want to take the money? Ping! Yes, top answer. 90% do. He's doing really well at Napoli. Did we make a mistake by selling him? No, we didn't. It's called good business. It's good for him. It's good for Napoli. It's good for Man United. Not every player that you let go is a mistake. I don't know why people want us to sell players and then to be shit. I want us to sell players and then be good. This is one of the many principles for Manchester United to get back on their feet. If we can start selling players and they do well at other clubs, it gives us a good reputation and it will make more people want to buy our bench players. It's actually a very good thing when your players go off and do well. And we need more of that. We need it with some younger players. I mean, look at Garner. Garner's gone and done pretty good for Everton. Starts for Everton. He's done quite well. That's good for our youth setup. McTominay has gone and done quite well at Napoli so far. That's good for our bench. We need more and more of this because that money needs to come in because we're not rich. We're in debt. We've got to be compliant with FFP, and the best way for us to be compliant with FFP is to increase our revenue, yes, but is also to increase our sales so that we can buy more players. So for me, it's a positive. Alanga we got good money for as well. It's Dane with an M at the end. Okay. Thank you for all you do, Mark, for the community. Thought I'd point across. Tuchel is a big no. I'd take Simeone over Tuchel. Thank you very much for your super chat, pal. Hope you're doing well. Keel says, we sell and loan players we need. We don't sign players who deliver. We give multiple chances to players who are not delivering. Our actions lack sense. Thank you very much to that. Should have kept Welbeck. Probably should have kept Welbeck, actually. When you think about the 10 years he's not been here, he probably would have been a very, very useful player. I agree, but such is life. There was something else I wanted to talk about before I talk about this tweet of the week. Contracts we've spoken about. Amorim we've spoken about. Alvaro, okay. Let me talk to you about this then. So I got sent this. It's a few days old, but I got sent this by somebody in our group chat today. And I need to find the tweet. So it's come in from everybody's favourite journalist, chief correspondent for the Manchester Evening News. Let's leave it at that. And this is what he had to say a couple of days ago. Manchester United's goal-scoring record is a problem of their own making. Lacked ambition to go for Kane and instead committed to spending more than £100 million on two strikers with modest goal-scoring records who are not good enough to be the starting striker. So yet another example of a chief correspondent for Manchester United at a big newspaper that is gifted access by this football club on a regular basis, who is just totally and utterly out of his depth and toxic. I mean, I could pick more holes in this than a woodpecker can pick a hole in a tree, which is not my best analogy because I didn't think it through. But I'm just reading it again while I was doing that. There'll be people in the chat saying I absolutely agree with this because you're just negative people who want to see the world burn at the moment. Because when I look at this pragmatically, this is absolutely horrific. Man United's goal scoring record is a problem of their own making. Yes, it is. It's got nothing to do with buying 2 young strikers, though, mate. I mean, your analysis of football is absolutely terrible for a start. So if we'd bought Harry Kane, we'd be... I mean, this sort of opinion is dangerous. This is where football is so diverse and everybody can have an opinion, but some opinions are just pure danger. This, to me, reads that, one, we could have bought Harry Kane, which we couldn't. I mean, I'm going to keep coming back to this. I cannot keep talking about Harry Kane. I've heard Scholesy do it. You've got this person doing it. We could not have bought Harry Kane. What prat out there thinks we could have bought Harry Kane? I mean, we needed to be more ambitious to go for Harry Kane. We couldn't sign Harry Kane. I've never spoke to anybody with a brain cell who thinks we could have signed Harry Kane. We couldn't sign Harry Kane. £100 million to Bayern Munich because they're not in the Premier League. Chelsea wanted Harry Kane. We did like Harry Kane, but we couldn't buy him. They were not selling him to a Premier League club. The only way we were going to get him was Kane running his contract down and waiting a year. But you've got Bayern Munich going, we want you, you'll win trophies here. You've got Spurs saying, you're a Spurs legend, we get the money, you get the move, it's not in the Premier League. And that's why it happened. If Harry Kane wanted Man United or Chelsea, he could have said to Spurs, screw your Bayern Munich offer, I'm running this contract down, I'll score a few more goals for you, and then next year I'm going for nothing. And he didn't. Because whatever you say about Harry Kane, he obviously values the relationship with Spurs and fancied the Bayern Munich move. So how and why are we still being spoken about around Harry Kane? It's absolutely moronic analysis of football. We couldn't be more ambitious. We couldn't get him. It was as simple as that. It's like saying, wow, we should have been more ambitious and got Jude Bellingham. Oh, yeah, we're Manchester United, Jude. Hey, Jude. Come to Manchester United from Dortmund. I know Real Madrid want you, and I know Liverpool want you, but we're Manchester United. We should have been more ambitious. We absolutely could not get Harry Kane. It was not going to happen, and Spurs were never going to let it happen. So that was never going to happen. So this whole Manchester United are masters of their own downfall, and they should have got Harry Kane. It's an absolute nonsense opinion. Second of all, if we had got Harry Kane, he doesn't solve the goal scoring problem. Because if you can actually analyse football like many of you can, and you've watched Man United for the last few years like many of us have, you stick Erling Haaland up front for Man United, the best striker in the world, we're not going to be top of the league. And he is not going to get the golden boot. Cristiano Ronaldo somehow scored 18 goals in a shit United side. Somehow. But you are not going to score 30 goals in a Man United side. It's just not going to happen because you can't magic chances out of thin air. A lot of Ronaldo's goals came from set pieces or, you know, speculative shots. There weren't many tap-ins and there weren't many goals that were created. He scored good goals. And this tweet to me reads like we're missing loads of chances. We're missing loads of chances because we haven't got Harry Kane. Look at Erling Haaland when he played against Inter. Look at Erling Haaland when he's played against us sometimes. You can shut him out if you stop the service lines. But nobody needs to shut out our service lines. They don't exist. So I actually think Harry Kane to Man United was never going to happen. And also, it would not have solved our problems because our problems are exactly what we've been talking about on this channel for months and months and months. And it's why we did a video on Bruno 2 days ago. And it's why we speak about the wingers a lot. Our wingers tend to be quite selfish. They want to shoot and take people on. And Bruno Fernandes wants to play hero ball. So straight away, you're a striker up front going, right, they're not going to cross it, they're not going to cross it, and he's not going to pass it. So where's the creativity coming from? Because we also don't have fullbacks that overlap anymore. So where is the creativity coming from for the forward? And then the final thing that really pisses me off is the bit where it says Man United have spent £100 million on 2 strikers with modest goal scoring records who are not good enough to be the starting striker. Says who? Says you. Well, I disagree. I absolutely disagree. We've spent £34 million on Xerxes, who's been here 5 minutes and is meant to be a different type of striker anyway. He's meant to be more of a creative striker, and we haven't seen that yet because he's only been here 5 minutes. He wasn't brought in to score loads and loads of goals. And with Rasmus, I actually thought Rasmus's return last season was very, very good in a very, very, very factually hard season where we were absolutely dreadful because of injuries and off-field activities, and he was 20 years of age. What Man United have done, and I agree with it, is they've brought 2 strikers who are young for the future to build with, and they're never going to build when they've got people like that writing articles saying they're not good enough. I mean, who have we become? And why do we put up with this? Why did the club put up with that? Why did the club put up with that sort of toxicity around the football club and let that person come in and ask a question of Erik ten Hag? It is bad football opinion based on fantasy that in no way, shape or form is trying to be part of the solution. It's certainly not it's not the words of a fan, is it? Kane would not solve the problem. We couldn't sign Harry Kane. So tell me what else we were going to do. What else were we going to do? As we look to build something for the future, we've tried the Zlatans, we've tried the Cavani's, we've tried the Ronaldos. So we've clearly decided we're going to go for younger strikers and build them. How are we going to build them when we've got people writing articles and tweets about them saying they're not good enough? I don't know what these people think. It's almost like they enjoy us being shit because they contribute to us being shit. These are human beings. And if you've got enough people booing and saying you're not good enough, then it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. And I disagree. I think that if you give Xerxes, Rasmus, Harry Kane service, they will score goals. Obviously, Harry Kane's going to score more goals because he's a world-class striker and the other 2 are still up and coming. But we're not creating those chances. Last season, Rasmus Højlund was 55 out of all forwards in the Premier League for chances created. 55! Do the maths. Do the maths. There's 20 clubs in the Premier League. Even if they've got 2 strikers, that's 40. So, yeah, we are not providing support and chances for our striker, whether it's Harry Kane, whether it is Rasmus. It is not happening in that team, and it's not been happening for years. It didn't happen for Cavani. It didn't happen for Ronaldo. It's not been happening for a very long time. Until we solve that, let's stop pretending. I mean, I just find it lunacy. It should be on the back of the Sun, an article like that. It's absolutely crap media because it puts a big sign on your head saying, I don't understand football. If we've got people in this fan base that think signing Erling Haaland will put us top of the league and solve our goal scoring problems, football for dummies. And that's not what you are, and that's not what the majority of our fan base is. Most people watch the game and understand that a lot of our attacks break down because we've got the wrong creators making the wrong decisions. We are not missing 4 or 5 one-on-ones every single game. We're not. I look at Chelsea sometimes over the years, and I've gone, God, they need a striker. Chelsea to me need a Harry Kane. Chelsea to me needed a Victor Osimhen. Chelsea needed an Erling Haaland because I'm watching Chelsea and I'm going, my God, the amount of chances their striker misses or they're offside, that's a team where I've looked at it and gone, this is why I think Chelsea are a threat, because for years, even though they've changed their managers, I've seen Chelsea create a lot of chances and not score them. I wish that was our problem. I genuinely wish our problem was we need a top-class striker. Because if we needed a top-class striker, we'd be nearly there. Unfortunately, people don't want to have the conversation that it's not a top-class striker we need because we don't miss chance after chance after chance. We don't create chance after chance. I mean, how many times do we actually end up in a one-on-one? I watch teams that have quite a lot of one-on-ones, whether it's Liverpool, whether it's Chelsea. I see teams who end up one-on-one with the goalkeeper quite a lot because of a good pass or good build-up play or quick, efficient build-up play. We very rarely end up in a one-on-one situation. Occasionally, the diagonal will get Rashford in, but very rarely do we get our striker in one-on-one. Yet I watch teams who do it. The construction's terrible, really. Rub says we're sticking with Jackson, he will come good. Well, look, to be fair, he is doing a lot better this season. But for me, that's been Chelsea's problem for a while. Are we in a position to build anyone right now, says Keel. And we need to see them play together, says Glenn C. Brax, welcome to the Members Club. Mbappe to Man United, here we go, says John. And I think we should start Anthony, says Gayton. Yeah. I'm scared he'll be the next Anthony, says Umar. Sheer Lacey instead of Ahmad and Abbas in at left back needs to happen, says Lee. I know you're being very patient with Xerxes, says Umar. Because you have to be. You have to be. Lucky Throne says Xerxes missed some very easy chances, to be fair. His goal against Fulham was fantastic. I thought the way he took it, that was... The funny thing with Xerxes is the Fulham goal was harder than the 2 chances that he missed against Liverpool. He missed a big chance, didn't he? He missed one against Spurs, didn't he? That was a good chance as well. Look, I have watched football for a very long time. I don't profess to know everything, but I profess to back my opinion. I think Xerxes will end up being a good signing for us, but I don't think he's going to be the starting striker this season. I think we need Rasmus. I think he brings more intensity. I think he brings more speed, and I think he plays on the last man. It reminds me a little bit of England in the sense that Harry Kane's quite frustrating in the Euros when he's dropping in and getting in the way of Bellingham, etc. You want an Ollie Watkins to play on the last man, and when Watkins came on for England in that game and we got through, it was because he played on the last man. I think with Xerxes, we're better off with Rasmus because he plays on the last man. It suits us. It stretches the game a little bit. He's a bit quicker. But it's very early in his career. And I think because Rasmus was injured, Xerxes needed to be ready. And it's the same with Ugarte. Because we started off badly, Ugarte needed to be ready. The best signings are the ones that are allowed to be fed in. Pep Guardiola is brilliant at this. He makes a new signing and he feeds them in gradually. And we've not had that luxury to do that. I would like to see Xerxes over the next couple of months off the bench, coming off without the pressure. He looks like a rabbit in the headlights. He looks like a guy who's lost his confidence. Who builds his confidence up? You. You build his confidence up. His teammates build his confidence up. The manager builds his confidence up. And it's the same for any player. And I understand it. I do it. When it's a player that's been here for a few years and they're on a good wage and they've got a good contract and you know they're better than what they're doing, that's evidence-based. And you're like, what are you doing? When you look at someone like Anthony that's been here for year 3 and there's not a lot of improvement, you're like, come on, what are you doing? When you look at someone like Bruno, who's not been very good this season and has been here for years and you know he's better and he's, a leader, what are you doing? But when you're looking at someone like a Xerxes or a Yoro when he comes in, you're sort of like going, well, look, I've got a bit of patience for you, mate. When you're coming off the bench, let's hear a roar. When you miss a shot, it's disappointing, but pick yourself up. And I think we've got to do that with these players because factually, transfers, 60% hit rate. If you're lucky. Any manager will tell you this. Out of all your signings, if 60% of them are a success, you've done well. Statistically, across the history of transfers, it's proven that 30% will flop. Well, that means out of our 5 signings this summer, one of them's definitely going to flop. One and a half of them is probably 2 of them are going to flop out of the 3. So, and this is the mindset that people lose. Oh, look at that flop. Look at that. But yet, factually, in the history of football, for every 5 signings you make, 2 will flop. But you're not allowed that anymore. Oh, no. Sack the manager, and it will happen. One of the 5 people we've bought in the summer will flop. But it's very early, and we do need to back them, in my opinion. we're sticking with Jackson. That's good. This team don't trust their teammate. That's why, says Black. And the rot started when Fergie left Moyes, came in and fired all the backroom staff. He bought mediocre players too, says Richard. No amount of encouragement will turn Anthony into a good player, says G-Man. And Chaos says, I've just ordered my Christmas jumper. I'm loving the design. It's by far the best design I've seen on a Christmas jumper. Thank you. Thank you very much. They're going quick and they're behind me there. Links in the description. I like Rasmus and Xerxes. It's about time we started getting young players with a mentality that can be moulded correctly, says John. All I would say about Rasmus and Xerxes, or Obi Martin when he starts getting games, because I think he will, is if one of them starts missing 2 or 3 big chances a game, let's talk. I've had that chat with people before. There used to be a time at Man United where we would create so many chances and you actually would be critical of a striker who's just not playing well. But I can't remember a time in the last 5 years. So I would include the likes of Ronaldo and Cavani and Martial and Rashford and any other striker that's played in that time. Weghorst, Agallo. We've just not been a team that creates lots of chances for our striker for ages. And until we get to that point, I don't believe that signing a world-class striker is going to... There are people out there that goes, we shouldn't have bought 2 young strikers, we should have bought an experienced striker. Why? Because they're more experienced at being frustrated about a lack of service. I find it baffling that people don't watch Manchester United and understand that we don't create chances for our striker. And I tell you what, I'd love to see a Xerxes or Erasmus playing up front for Man City or for Arsenal or for Liverpool. And then, you know what, you'd be able to judge them properly then. You would, because they would get service. And look at the Darwin Núñez example as well. I can't stand what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it because it just shows you how far we've fallen, and some people don't like a harsh truth. Darwin Núñez at Liverpool is still cheered, backed and loved. He has missed more chances than I've had hot dinners. He is a guy that misses sitter after sitter after sitter. But they like him because he will score a goal. He has got the effort. He has got the passion and he has got ability, and they back him. When did we lose that? When did we lose that ability with new signings to back them? And they've been doing it with Darwin Núñez for 2 years. As Paul Lucas says, you've got to get service to score. Get Daichin, take easy wins and rebuild, says Ricard. Okay, I've had enough of the internet for this morning. Thanks everyone for watching. Yeah, I know he's on the bench, Tom, but he's still well liked by that crowd and he's still been backed for a very long time. I just think we need to back our young players and stop listening to toxicity that tries to... I mean, what is the point of slagging off Xerxes or Rasmus? What is the point of it? Unless you want to see Man United burn. What is the point of it? What is the point in slagging off Ugarte and De Ligt? What is the point in that? I understand the planted media that want Man United to fail, but I don't understand why a Man United fan does it. Thank you, everybody. Take care. It's Saturday night, 8 o'clock show tonight. Yeah, obviously we'll react to anything else, but it's one of those horrible Saturdays today where there's no fucking football. I just despair at the international breaks. At least this is the last Saturday international break where there's nothing to do, because the next international break Saturday is my all-day charity stream, which I love doing every year. So that's coming up in about 5 weeks. But for today, I will see you at 8 o'clock. If you want to fill some time, my Man United career mode is on the Mark Goldbridge channel. My TUSFC career mode is on that channel as well. I will speak to you all in a bit. Take care. Legends this morning, and speak to you all in a bit.